welcome back. In this episode we will be doing the front linings and the side braces. Now the front linings you've pretty much already seen because it's the same as the back linings, so we'll just whiz through that and then we'll come back and I'll talk about the side bracing. And yes, that is a cat fight happening while I'm gluing the linings. Right, side braces. The main purpose, as far as I can tell, with side braces is really to provide resistance to splitting in solid wood side guitars. Although they do provide some stiffness, you don't really need extra stiffness in the sides because the sides are curved and they're pretty stiff already. Now, not all guitars have side braces, and I've looked at a few guitars in shops, mass-produced guitars, I have to say. Any guitar that has laminated sides, I'm pretty sure will not have side braces. It's just not needed because you've got cross grain from the laminate and they're pretty strong already and probably quite stiff as well because of the laminations. Yeah, so don't have side braces. But having said that, a lot of solid wood sided guitars don't have side braces either. I looked through a whole load of Gibsons, high-end ones, SG1 maple sides, rosewood sides, and none of them had side braces. I couldn't find any Gibsons with side braces. I looked through a load of Taylors, and most of them didn't have side braces, but in fact I did find one that had side braces, which I'll come back to. Most side braces, and my Faith is an example of this, the side braces are very thin, almost veneer-like, usually a hardwood, and they run the full width of the side and the linings go over the top of them. Another guitar that's like this is the Furch guitar, or they have a number of models, but certainly a few of the Furches I looked at had very similar style braces to this. By the way, I can recommend Furch guitars. They are really good, really nice sounding guitars. The Furch seem to take this one step further in that I think they're using composite material braces. it looked like there were carbon fibre stripes in the braces. Maybe some of you out there in comment world know a bit more about this than I do. All I had was my observations. But I know cloth can be used for bracing on the side. And it looked like perhaps this was the high-tech version of it. Either that, or it was some exotic hardwood with black stripy grain, but it looked a bit too regular to me. I suspect that might have been carbon fibre strips. Who knows? Maybe somebody out there does. Coming back to that Taylor guitar, they kind of bucked the trend a little bit in that the brace I saw in their guitar, Builder's Edition, I think it might have been called, it was narrow and tall. Now that does provide stiffness. Tall braces are much stiffer. If you double the width of a brace, you are actually increasing the stiffness 8-fold. It's a cube rule. That brace kind of surprised me. It might have been there more to do with transferring of vibrational energy between the front and back of the guitar, possibly. But you don't really usually need to add stiffness by putting a tall brace on the side of a guitar. The brace on the Taylor, actually, the lining stopped either side of the brace. The brace was full width, and so it did all the things we need of a brace, in that it will have been supporting the side, protecting against splitting for the full width of the side. But the Taylor seemed to be slightly unusual, and that was a hand-built guitar. I suppose technically all guitars are hand-built to some extent. Well, anyway. Martin guitars. Again, a lot of Martins didn't seem to be braced. And I know Martin do laminated side guitars, but I was looking at quite high-end Martins, and I only found one out of the quick selection I looked at, and that was a Trebolo 28. And the Martin bracing scheme was pretty much what I'm going to use. It looked like they were spruce braces, and it looked like it was soundboard material, and that's what I'm going to use, 4mm thick soundboard material. But Martin did something which I think is frowned upon on Planet Luthier. The braces on the Martin ended at the linings. The linings were continuous, and the bracing was only between the linings. Now, as I understand it, that could lead to a potential weakness along the edge of the lining. You could end up with a split there, the split running between the end of the brace and the start of the lining. It's possible that you could actually be introducing a weakness there, that it might actually be weaker with the brace at that particular point. Obviously, it's not going to split anywhere else, but I'm wondering whether differential expansion of the two different sorts of wood and the two grain directions could actually create a weak spot at the end of the brace. Again, comments, if anybody knows more about this, has had any horror stories of Martin splitting, please let me know. The accepted wisdom, as I understand it, is that you let the brace into the lining. You just chisel away a little gap, or you have the brace the full width and the lining stops either side of the brace. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the brace into the lining, and that way you eliminate this possibility of a split along the edge of the lining, because the brace will cross that grain line. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's go do it. Here are my raw side braces. I want to put a taper on them with my little miniature plane, and I just need to create a jig to hold the braces while I'm planing them. Okay, it's bizarre working practices time. I want to put 4 braces in here and I want to space them out evenly, and I'm having trouble measuring the inside. So I've just got a piece of paper which is roughly the length I need. That'll be the second brace, that'll be the third brace, but they need to be closer because I've got a lot left over at the end. So I need to shorten that by, I think, 1/4 of that amount. So I need to shorten that by about that much. And hopefully that's going to be correct. Let's find out. First brace. Second brace, which is now more or less on the curve, which is good. Third brace. Fourth brace. No, it's too short. So we need to be a little bit longer, which is fine. 2 iterations later. It's almost a binary search, or Newton-Raphson, I don't know, scientific approximation methods. Yeah. It's surprising how accurate this method becomes. You can only chop a couple of millimeters at a time off the piece of paper. So there we go. Those are positions of our braces, which I shall now mark properly. The first brace is going to be 80 millimeters long, and we'll get inset into the linings. I'll just cut away the beveled part of the lining on each side using my inlay chisels, and we'll go from there. Because the sides are tapered and get narrower towards the neck, you'd expect the braces to get shorter as we go along. But the dome on the back of the guitar, the 15-foot radius, cancels out that effect for these three braces. So these are actually the same length, 80mm. It's not until we get to the fourth brace that it gets much shorter. On this side, the first brace is going to be hard against the strap block, and then I'll space them equally from there. As promised, the gurning shot through the middle of the guitar. Possibly the last time I'll be able to do that. I am so pleased with how this has gone. this bracing scheme, there's a real aesthetic to it, and I love. I know this is going to be inside the guitar, but if anybody takes a look inside my guitar, I'm going to be very proud of my work. It all went remarkably well up to a point. I am slightly disappointed that the lining is just a millimetre or so too low up here. It means I'm going to have to take an extra millimetre off the block when I do my steering the bus again with the sanding dishes. I've mentioned comments a few times on here, and there's something that maybe you can answer in the comments section. Once I've got the dome on the guitar, the proper angles on the side, I will be gluing the front of the guitar on first, and I think that is a standard way of doing it. Certainly, I'm pretty sure perhaps all the books I've got do that. But I have seen some pictures from seriously high-end luthiers, and I mean, you know, very, very expensive guitars, where they've put the back on first. I'm not going to name names here, but I'm just wondering whether there's a reason for doing that. It might be that they've got some very particular construction method to do with the set of the neck or something. I don't know, but I'm wondering why you would put the back on first, because as far as I can see, putting the front on first makes absolute sense, because you have visibility of your potential joint at all times, because you can see through the back when you put the front on, and then you can see through the sound hole when you put the back on. But if you put the back on first, you can't see around the inside of the guitar when you're putting the front on. So why would you put the back on first? Does anybody know? Can anybody give me any reasons? Over to you, commenting people. And with that, I will do my usual signing off of saying comment, like, share, subscribe, go visit my Patreon, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!